spiced holiday cookie recipe that makes the cut. Coming right up on Weekend at the Cottage. Welcome to Weekend at the Cottage. I'm Nik Manojlovich. Before I share this amazing recipe for gingerbread spiced cookies, I'd like to invite you to visit our dedicated website. Head to Weekend at the Cottage. When you're there, subscribe to it. Look for us on our dedicated YouTube channel. Lots of great holiday ideas there. Subscribe to our channel. And then finally, share all your holiday pics using hashtag Weekend at the Cottage when you post them on your favorite socials like Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. This fabulous recipe for holiday cookies checked off a bunch of our wish lists. I want to say a huge thank you to our friends at Redpath Sugar. This is their recipe for gingerbread spiced cookies. I'll put links in the story. Now for this recipe, we're going to be doing three things. We're going to be making a spiced gingerbread dough. Second step, we're going to roll the dough out, cut it into shapes, and bake the cookies. And then the final step is to decorate them. Are you ready to make gingerbread spiced cookies? I know I am. Let's get started. This dough recipe begins with us assembling the dry ingredients. I have a medium-sized bowl, 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I love the spice profile in these cookies. We have 4 teaspoons of ground ginger, a tablespoon of ground cinnamon, a teaspoon ground allspice, a teaspoon of ground cloves, and then half a teaspoon of nutmeg, I did mine fresh, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Take a whisk, whisk those ingredients together, set the dry ingredients to the side. Now we're taking our stand mixer with paddle attachment. Into the bowl of the stand mixer, I have 1 cup of unsalted butter at room temperature. I'm gonna cream the butter until it's light and fluffy. Next ingredient is key, 3/4 cup of Redpath's dark brown sugar. Now the sugar is packed, so jam it into that cup, and then I'm gonna slowly add it into the bowl. The sugar in this recipe gives the cookies a wonderful flavor. We're gonna cream the butter and sugar together. Moving on, we're adding 1 egg at room temperature, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, and then, if you want to do the Nik trick, add 1 tablespoon of grated orange zest, really wonderful. Blend those ingredients together. Now we're going to add half of the dry mix. And then once the first half is combined, we're adding the balance. Don't overmix the dough. You'll see it comes together really quick. We're going to transfer it out onto a work surface, press it down into a dish shape, wrap it up. Very important. You got to let your dough chill for 1 hour before you continue. What to do while the dough is chilling? Get your cookie cutters ready. I'm going to be making cookies for guests to eat, but I'm also going to be using these same shapes to create Christmas tree ornaments. That's a great idea. I also have these wonderful shapes, a small square onto which I'll be writing holiday messages, and then larger squares, I'm going to be creating handmade cookie place cards for the holidays. So a couple of different ideas. Once our dough is chilled, we're going to bring it out of the fridge about 10 minutes before we're ready to roll it out. Turn your oven on, preheating to 350 degrees. Now, once the chill is off the dough, we're placing down a piece of parchment paper onto our work surface, a little bit of flour, add a second piece of parchment paper on top, rolling pin, and you're gonna roll it out. You're trying to get a nice, flat, even surface. You're rolling out to somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch thickness. And you can lift up the paper. Ooh, it's a little funky over here. Roll out this way. Oh, and just play around until you have a nice, even, flat piece of dough. Now take off the parchment paper. You're going to grab your cookie cutters and start to cut. You'll see this dough works really perfectly. Lift and then transfer the cut cookies onto a parchment lined baking sheet. Once you have your first sheet filled with cookies, great tip from our friends at Redpath, transfer that baking sheet into the fridge for 10 minutes. Chilling the cookies like this before they bake prevents them from spreading out when they're in the oven. It's a great tip. Now once my cookies are chilled, transfer the cookies to the oven. We're gonna bake for 10 to 12 minutes. They're gonna get nice and golden and it's gonna smell really wonderful in your home. Gather up the scraps of dough, roll out the next batch until you've used up all of this dough. When the cookies come out of the oven, we're gonna let them cool for about 5 minutes on the baking trays before we transfer them to a wire rack to cool completely. You know what's next? We're gonna make Redpath's royal icing and we're gonna decorate our cookies for the holidays. This royal icing recipe is really easy to pull together. I have our stand mixer on our work surface paddle attachment. In the bowl, 8 cups of Redpath's icing sugar. I'm adding a 1/4 cup of meringue powder and just a pinch of kosher salt. Run the mixer on low just to incorporate those ingredients. Next, we're adding 3/4 cup of water at room temperature and 1 tablespoon of pure vanilla extract. Stand mixer goes up to medium. We're blending the icing until it's fluffy. When doing this recipe, if you think the icing is too thick, add a tiny bit more water. If you think it's too thin, you can add a little bit more icing sugar. Now, I decided to use a bunch of different colors for these cookies, so I'm dividing the icing into small bowls, remembering to keep 1 bowl pure snow white. White is a great color when you're decorating. For the others, I'm adding little dabs of color. You can see as I stir them together, really, really beautiful. Once the icing is tinted, we're gonna add decorator nibs to the bottom of pastry bags, transfer your icing in, and you're ready to start decorating. I'm gonna run a little bit of Christmas music so you can see the fun I had decorating my cookies. I have a holiday prediction. You're gonna feel pretty sweet when you do that final dab and your gingerbread spiced cookies are decorated just like mine. Whether you're creating individual cookies to go out on a holiday buffet for friends to enjoy. Let's say you're doing holiday messages, hope, love, joy. Perhaps you're doing place cards so your guests know exactly where to sit, or then maybe a treasure keepsake to hang on the tree. Well, hopefully I've inspired you to make these gingerbread spiced cookies. If you do, I can tell you one thing, your friends and family are gonna have some happy holidays. From all of us to you, season's greetings. Until next time, yay.